All right, I've got a few others queued up. I'm going to save them here for rapid fire. Are you ready for rapid
Okay.
fire, Vincenzo?
Let's do it, man.
All right.
Somehow we just talked for 54 minutes
Rolled right into
on
it.
all these questions. This is great.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff tonight. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Which has the better chance to happen this season? Audric Estime rushes for at least 1,200 yards, or one of Notre Dame's wide receivers tops 900 yards?
I honestly think both are going to happen. The only problem is if I had to pick one over the other, I'm going to pick Audric Estime. I think he hits about 1,300 or so yards. I think he's going to get over that. But I do think eventually Sam Hartman's going to find his number one guy. And I don't know who that is yet. That remains to be seen. He's going to spread the ball around. He's going to throw it to whoever's open. But I do think somebody might crack the 900-yard mark. But if my money goes towards Audric, I think he's almost guaranteed to get there, especially with the loss of Diggs. He's going to get a few more carries. I think he definitely hits that.
I had to, when I was coming up with the question, I had to keep kind of jacking up the numbers to try to figure out where the pressure point was. Apparently, I didn't pressure point it high enough. The last time a Notre Dame running back hit the 1,200-yard mark, it's been 6 years. Josh Adams in 2017. Okay. Now, Kyren Williams had a nice year a couple of years ago with 1,100 yards. But what else was around Kyren Williams? The running back room was not as deep as it is right now. And that's why I still think
Kyren had over 200 carries that year too.
I think Estime, yeah, that's right. Exactly. I think Estime is going to top 1,000 and probably hit 1,100. To me, the pressure point starts at 1,100, though, because of the fact that you have better depth than what Kyren Williams had when he had his 1,100-yard season a couple of years ago. So I think we're going to see at least two receivers around like 800 plus, and I think one of them will get to 900. Interestingly, Miles Boykin in 2018, 817 yards. The next year, Chase Claypool was a little over 1,000. But since that 2019, it's been basically the Michael Mayer show. And we haven't seen, since Javon McKinley had over 700 yards the next year, we haven't seen a Notre Dame receiver top 700 yards even. But I think we're going to see multiple receivers again top that. Again, because of like Estime is going to get his carries, but other guys are going to share the load as well. And the fact that they went out and added Ford, I think that Estime is just going to have some of those opportunities taken away from him, and that's going to be good for Estime. It's going to be good for the team. So I'm going to go with the receiver yardage over Estime getting to 1,200. Again, I think he's going to top 1,000, but I think it's going to be a little bit tougher. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that's fair.
To me, anyway. To me.
That's fair.
But that's, again, like that, where the pressure point is, that's when I'm really curious to see. So Notre Dame safety target Paul Menke Jr. has committed to Duke. How does this make you feel about Fighting Irish safeties coach Chris O'Leary?
To be honest with you, I'm not going to throw him under the bus just yet. This was not a O'Leary.
Not a total shocker.
It's not a total shocker, and I don't put this on O'Leary. I don't put this one on O'Leary at all. Let's just say some things outside of Notre Dame's control pretty much made this one go. And so I don't put that on O'Leary. I think that the safety recruiting has been an issue.
Do you want to just say it, or do you want to leave it in the shadows?
I got to leave it in the shadows. I'm not allowed to say. I'm not allowed to say. I can share it with you later, but I can't.
I have an idea of what you're talking about, but
I don't want to put the kids' dirty laundry out there because that's not our job. So anyway, I don't put this on O'Leary, but he does have to close on some of these guys. He's going to have to close on some of these safety guys moving forward. He can't strike out on all of them. You know what I mean? So the jury's still out just a little bit, but I don't put this one on him. So my opinion of him doesn't change in any way whatsoever, but he's got to close on some of these guys.
Yes. And again, the Menke thing, there's only so much Chris O'Leary or Notre Dame can do. The
Right.
fact of the matter is kind of what you finish with. O'Leary needs to find a hit at some point.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And it's got to stick, because that's this. It's a very important position, and it has to be addressed in recruiting. And for whatever reasons, he hasn't
Sure
got the hit yet. The hit that stuck. And
right.
that's where he is. Whatever the reasons are, he's got to find one that sticks. That's just where it is right now. I realize
right.
sometimes, like very close the last couple of, like all the drama, back in December, I realize very close, but at the end of the day, you've got to find one that sticks. And that's just the fact of the matter. No matter, it's just where he is. And I guess that's kind of what I'm looking at. All right. Chicago Bears defensive lineman Justin Jones went off on Green Bay Packers fans yesterday. He called them excrement. He actually didn't use the word excrement. He used the word for what you do when you go number 2. This is a family show, so I'm not actually going to say the word. Called them obnoxious. He said half of them don't even know football. And he said he also wishes that Aaron Rodgers was still playing with the Packers so they could beat him this season. So rate this rant on a scale of 1 to 10, Vince.
Oh, it's a 12. I mean, look, one of the I don't want to say one of the problems. I don't know if that is effective, but this isn't the old school NFL where there were legit rivalries for the players. Free agency obviously has pretty much killed that. There's too much movement. I mean, guys go from the Bears to the Packers all the time. There's just, I mean, growing up, I would assume that the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry wasn't just the fans. I'm guessing it was probably the players as well, right? I mean, I'm going out on a limb, but I'm going to say that was a pretty heated rivalry on the field as much as it was off the field.
Right.
I think Bears-Packers used to be much more of a rivalry for the players back in the day. We don't see it anymore. And we don't see players trash-talking other teams anymore. Because you never know when that team...
He's trash-talking the fans, though. He's going after the Packers.
He's going after the whole organization, frankly. And that's...
right.
Which I'm okay with, too. But you don't see that anymore because you never know when that team might be in play for you to go play with or whatever. So they just don't do it anymore. I'm all for it, man. I am all for it. I'm all for the pettiness. I'm all for the anger. I'm all for all of it. Call them all out. Fans, players, the front office, whatever, man. Call them all, because he called out Aaron Rodgers. Awesome. Call them all out, baby. We need more of that in the NFL.
I mean, I completely agree. Rivalries are not nearly what they all, used to be, just like you said. And free agency is the main culprit. Like, back in the, 80s and prior to that, you had guys who stuck around with teams for the majority of their career because it was pre-free agency. That has all changed now. Like you look at a guy like Deion Sanders or Terrell Owens, who both played for the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. I guess Charles Haley actually did too. But, like Owens and Sanders were both a direct result of free agency. Haley was traded over there. Like, I remember, again, like going back to talking about that Cowboys Redskins, there was like a playoff game between those two. I think it was in the early 80s, and someone had sent a funeral wreath to the Dallas Cowboys before the game. I don't know if it was a Redskins fan or who it was, and the Cowboys won the game. And afterwards, Harvey Martin, the big defensive end, took the funeral wreath. He marched into the Washington Redskins locker room. He opened the door and he threw the funeral wreath inside the Redskins locker room.
That's awesome.
The game. It's beautiful. And I mean, if you want to get the fan base on your side, you do what Justin Jones did.
Yep.
And you call out your biggest rival, and you rally the fans around you. The Bears have obviously not been on Packers level in recent years. That should very well change this year. But you at least want guys like that who, are willing to stir it up, willing to mix it up, and have the belief. I love it.
I love that story. And to be honest with you, look, and Quinn is the one that brings this up. He says, don't forget, Rodgers told a Bears fan that he owns them.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
did. He did. Look, yes, he said it, but was it untrue? No. And it hurt my heart. It hurt everything about me because I'm a Bears fan, but he's not wrong. Talk that trash, man. And this is the one and only time you're ever going to hear me say anything good about Aaron Rodgers. But I had no problem with him saying that because it was true. And he did it in Soldier Field. And I mean, hey, touche to you, buddy. If you can back it up, man, I have no problem with the trash talk. I have no problem with it.
Salty threw a question in earlier. Does it seem to you that once he decided to leave Notre Dame, Phil Jurkovec transferred to Boston College, then Pittsburgh, in part to play Notre Dame every year?
I mean, it's possible. He has trouble keeping Notre Dame out of his mouth, obviously, and the most recent interview that he gave at Pitt is prime example of that.
Mentioned Notre Dame. Yeah, I committed to Notre Dame and blah,
right.
Blah, blah.
Never once mentioned BC. So that was interesting. But Phil just needs to graduate and move on at this point, and he needs to not keep mentioning Notre Dame because it doesn't end well for him. I mean, he didn't play last year because he was injured, obviously, and everything. But like, dude, if I know that Phil is from Pittsburgh, John,
and that's what he was kind of saying in that Twitter clip, the interview. He was doing like a walk and talk interview. It looked like they were on campus or something.
Yep.
He's like, oh, I don't know why you want to go anywhere. Just stay at Pittsburgh. They've got everything.
He should have committed there in the first place.
Yeah, if that's what you thought, then but obviously he grew up wanting to go to Notre Dame and all. It didn't work out, but it still obviously lives rent free in his brain.
Yeah. No doubt. He brings it up all the time. He brought it up before the BC game last year. He brings it up in this interview. Just wait for the Notre Dame Pittsburgh week next year or this coming year. I'm sure he's going to bring it up again. Awesome. Go ahead. It's just going to be a royal beatdown again. And
cultural appropriation.
So stupid. Like, really? Really? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to go on social media before Pittsburgh comes to town? And
I hope he's learned his lesson, and he doesn't. But based on the interview he just gave, he's going to say something stupid. He's going to. He's going to say something stupid.
I don't think he can help himself at this point.
Yeah.
I just don't think he can.
Absolutely. Good for him.
Yeah. Salty also says Paul McCartney has discussed a new Beatles song in which John Lennon's voice will be the product of AI computing. Should an artist have the right to not be AI copied?
Well, now I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure McCartney owns the rights to the Beatles stuff.
Well, that's a good question because, there was a famous conversation many years ago between Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, where McCartney told Michael Jackson, like, the money is in, like owning the rights to the music. And so Michael Jackson went out and bought the Beatles library and, like out from under Paul McCartney.
Wow.
And, so he, he owned the Beatles library. So I don't know, with Michael Jackson's death a few years back and, like where exactly any of that lies right now.
Yeah, I don't know what the legal
able to buy it back or, any of that stuff.
Well, I know I saw a little bit of a story on this. Was it today? I don't know. Yesterday, maybe. I don't know. But Yoko Ono gave Paul McCartney a cassette of a song that John Lennon wrote and sang on after he died. She gave him the cassette, so it does belong to Paul McCartney, and that's what they're using. They're basically putting out a single, a John Lennon single, and I think the other Beatles are singing on it as well. I think that's what's happening, but it was his property; he owned it, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all works.
Yeah, it's going to be this whole AI, the chat. What is it? Chat GPT or whatever. It's like. We could be sitting here 5 years from now and like you could be watching this show and it's, just computer generated.
It'd be great.
Dude,
that would free me up to do a lot of other things.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It'd be all
free up Vince's time.
Man,
that's right. So filmmaker Kevin Smith of Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob fame says there are some classic movies that need a current reboot. One of the ones that he mentioned specifically is The Bad News Bears. Smith said he envisions Kelly Leak and Amanda Wurlitzer, who are grown-ups and are now coaching against each other in Little League. My first question is, would you watch that?
No. Well, I can't say no because I probably would. It would be like, do I want to watch this train wreck, this potential train wreck? First of all, they never should have remade the movie in the first place. But you're talking about a reboot, as in you're following the characters.
This is basically like what they did with the Karate Kid.
Right.
It's not just like you're doing a remake of it.
Right.
They did a whole. First, it was on YouTube, and then YouTube TV, and then it went over to Netflix. It became a modernized, like a follow-up. 40 years later?
And I loved it. It was great.
And that would be what this is. It would be like Jackie Earl Haley and Tatum O'Neal, who played the two characters. Now they would be grown up, and they would be like, I think it's a perfect Netflix series, personally, just like what Karate Kid did. I think if they did it right, I think it could be pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, they'd have to. It's such a narrow needle to thread, though. You know what I mean? Like they threaded the needle with Cobra Kai. Like they threaded that needle perfectly. It was great. My son even has a Cobra Kai T-shirt that he wears all the time. Like they threaded that needle perfectly. You would have to do it right because there's other ones that they've done or that they've rebooted that have just not been good.
Right, like they've tried, they tried to bring back 90210. Did they try like a more modern Melrose Place or something like that?
I think so. I think 90210 was it.
Look at Top Gun Maverick. It's the same kind of deal, same characters.
Which was really good.
30 years later.
Which was really good. I mean, I would watch it.
I would be at the very least intrigued by it and see where it goes. But like Jackie Earl Haley, he's one of these actors that's kind of kicked around every once in a while. He's made like these little comebacks. Tatum O'Neal, you obviously haven't unfortunately seen as much of. She did. Did you ever watch Rescue Me, the firefighters show with Dennis Leary a few years back? Kind of a drama.
I remember that show now, but no, I never watched it. Yeah,
she was in that for a little bit, but like both of them, I think that it would be like a really good comeback opportunity for both of them. And if you get the right writers, I think it could be really funny because it's like, again, it's like week after week, here's Kelly Leak and Amanda Wurlitzer, button heads on the Little League diamond, fighting over practice time and
could be good.
All different kind of little League misadventures and stuff like that. So, okay, you're not as hot on the Bad News Bears reboot then, but like, are there any that you could think of that maybe you would like to see?
See, I tried to come up with like all the shows or movies that I really enjoyed growing up, and I feel like they've tried to redo almost all of them. There's just a lot of lack of imagination out there right now, I feel like. Now here's one, and that might be controversial, I don't know, but I was a big fan of the Wonder Years growing up. I really love that show.
I was thinking the same thing.
Really? Okay.
Wonder Years.
So they tried this weird reboot with an African-American family, and they call it the Wonder Years.
And again, you're not remaking it. You want to get the same people who played those, like with Cobra Kai and Karate Kid.
I want to see Winnie and the whole crew. I want to see them as adults. And like, I want to see,
are Kevin and Winnie married, or like maybe they're divorced now, like they got married and they're, something like that.
Right. Yeah. And so like what they did with the Wonder Years, they came out with a new Wonder Years, but it's not the same characters. It's a different thing. I want to see the characters grown up. That's
exactly.
That's the one that came to mind for me. And I was thinking, I was trying to come up with like the different show. Like my mom always used to watch Magnum PI. That's been redone. Like they've redone a lot of the stuff.
I think haven't they canceled that already, or like
I don't even know.
I don't think it did very well.
It never really resonated with me. Like MacGyver. Like I love MacGyver when I was a kid. They redid that one. I don't know.
Yeah, we were both on the same with the Wonder Years.
That's hilarious. I didn't know you were a fan.
Like watch that. That was kind of when I was in college. I was watching the Wonder Years.
Okay.
So, Sandlot. Like, I thought about Sandlot. Because you remember like at the very end when he's the Dodgers play-by-play
Yeah.
announcer and Benny the
Yep.
Jet,
He's
played for the
like an
Dodgers. Maybe,
aging Dodgers player.
yeah, like maybe you visit that era, like where the
Mhm.
guy is doing the play-by-play and Benny is playing, and something happens there.
I could see that. I could see that.
I thought about like Ferris Bueller, where like Ferris has grown up and now he's the principal and he's like, dealing with the punk kids and stuff like that.
He was the dean of students who he was dealing with that whole time. He was the
That's
dean of
right.
students. And I didn't realize that until I watched it recently after I got my dean of students job. And I was like, I was riveted to the movie in a whole new way watching that and knowing that he was the dean of students. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, that could be a fun one for sure.
Michael said, anyone heard any rumors about Happy Days? That would be interesting.
Like I never got into Happy Days. That was a little before
my
that
time. That was way before your time, Meg. But
Yeah.
they could all basically be grandparents now, essentially.
Easily.
So
easily.
Quinn wants to know what your go-to seed flavor was when you were coaching baseball. He says he's a big buffalo wing guy.
I wasn't a big seed guy. I would do more seeds at practice than I would at games. I know some people are religious about their seeds during games, but I was way too focused on what I was doing. And if you're playing on turf, they don't allow seeds anyway. So that's a new thing. But anyway, I was an original and a ranch. Those are usually the ones that I liked the most. I'm not a barbecue guy.
I like the barbecue and the wings myself, like the hot. But the problem is, like, just with like you end up like with the canker sores and stuff like that. Your cheeks are all puckered up. So I typically would go more bubblegum, than seeds when I could.
So. See, Big League Chew. Can't go wrong with Big League Chew. That's my favorite.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. Quinn wants stories of kids sent to my office. Someday I'll write a book. Someday I'll write a book.
I also thought about. Have you seen Say Anything? John Cusack.
No.
Say Anything.
Is that the?
Yes, the one, where he's holding the boombox.
I know that scene, but I have no idea why.
There's a scene about kickboxing, sport of the future, all that kind of stuff. I thought about like Lloyd Dobler is now, Lloyd Dobler, and he's running the MMA, or something like that. Like he had a successful, because kickboxing was the sport of the future. He became a successful, MMA guy, and now he's running the MMA, or he's doing like an MMA podcast or something like that. Since like working podcasts into storylines is kind of a big,
that is a thing,
a recent trend now in TV and movies and stuff like that.
I'm trying to think, because like as a big Saved by the Bell fan, they've rebooted that. They've done a lot of the ones that I used to watch, to be honest with you.
I like I was thinking about Breakfast Club. I couldn't think of like how I would do it. Baldwin says Judd Nelson is being abused by his kids. Fix me a turkey pot pie, Dad.
that would be weird, like, because you'd have to somehow get all of those kids involved as adults.
Mm-hmm.
So to like all their kids go to the same high school, and then they have the issue. Like Breakfast Club was such it was one day. It was one day that all these kids came together. Are we sure that they all hung out afterwards? Are we sure that was you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I have a different quandary that I want to throw to you.
Okay.
So I was listening the Ryan Russillo podcast. At the end of his podcast, he does life advice, and he takes emails from listeners and he does life advice for them. So the one I was just listening to, some relatively young guy moves to Los Angeles, I think it was, or Southern California anyway, with his girlfriend and her mother. Okay. And they all move into this house together. Guy, girlfriend, her mother. Within a month, girl meets a guy online, breaks up with guy, moves out, says that, she's going to, check in with the new guy, but current boyfriend who's writing this letter still living in the rented house with the girl's mom.
What?
It gets better. Now, ex-girlfriend asks the guy if she will drive him or drive her to the new, to the guy she met online who lives like 8 hours away to save her money. And the guy is asking if he should do it.
What? How is that even a possibility? How is that even something that you would consider? No.
That's not even
How about you
close.
ask your mom? She's in the next room over.
That's right.
There's no way.
It seems like a total like this mom and girl like are totally playing this guy or
Oh
something.
my poor guy.
I know.
Poor guy.
I know.
mean,
and I didn't, apparently he sent a picture. He's like, she's out of my league. Basically he was lucky to have her. All this. It just sounds like dude with no self-esteem needs to, just like
let
kick her
go,
to the
man.
curb, go run as far as he can. And,
Yes.
and
kick mom to the curb too. Like you need to get her out. I realize they're in California,
they
probably can't
just
afford
moved
it.
And they were renting a house. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why, like the lease, and that's the other thing is like he was, considering does he stay in the house with the mom until like next March or something like that, because they literally just got the lease. It's like, I think you got to eat that deposit and go back to wherever you came from.
I mean,
and
the legal ramifications would be I would be researching the financial legal ramifications of being in that house or not being in that house, right? If I had to stay in the same house as the mom, like, first of all, what is that dynamic like? Because there are plenty of relationships out there where you get along better with your mother-in-law than you do with the person you're in a relationship with.
True.
And but so I wonder what that relationship is like. But if I was that guy, I'd be bringing home a different girl like every week, like just rubbing it in. I don't know. I
know.
I would make it miserable for that mom to live there.
In no world do you drive the girlfriend 8 hours to go meet up with her new online boyfriend, though.
No chance. No chance. And if he's got any friends whatsoever, they got to be telling him that.
Yeah. I think what Rosillo said is like, he's obviously considering it because he thinks he's got some chance of actually getting back with her. But the only way you're actually getting back with that girl is if you give her the boot and you just tell her in no uncertain terms later. And hope, maybe sometime down the road she comes to her senses and comes crawling back. But she ain't coming back if you're cowing to her like that.
So, not a chance. Not a chance.
Picks would help me answer, Terry. It's a very good point. Just, like what leagues are we talking about?
Right. I would like to see the pictures as well, frankly. But I want to see the picture of the mom. Does that make me old?
If you're stuck living with the mom, if the girl is cute, there's at least a 50-50 chance the mom would be. So
just saying. Just saying.
I don't know.
Be worth a thought.
If you're putting yourself in that situation. So all right. Let's end on that tonight. Right. Great questions tonight. Fun show tonight. Tomorrow's show, Kevin Corrigan, national championship lacrosse coach. He'll join me to start the show. And then Jesse will be in for rapid fire as well. And I think we've got a 3-man rapid fire on Friday, once again, for the second week in a row.
I'll be tuning in from Cincinnati. So hopefully the hotel internet is pluses.
I hope so too. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We will talk to you then. Hit the like button on your way out. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. Talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.